There's a reason the doors in old Korean homes were never fully shut. Mirrors were turned face down at night. Names weren't spoken too clearly after dark. These weren't dramatic superstitions. They were small acts of caution. And for many families, they still are. The idea was simple. If someone died suddenly, or without the proper rites, they might not realize they were gone. They'd stay near the places they knew, sometimes quiet, sometimes restless. No one needed proof. If the house felt colder than usual, or if something shifted when it shouldn't have, that was enough. You just lit incense or offered a prayer and moved on. Ghosts weren't always feared. Not every one of them had a reason to stay behind, but the ones that did, people remembered those. Welcome to the haunted spine of Korean mythology. Subscribe to Vortex Mythology for more stories that don't belong to the past and were never meant to be buried. Some spirits don't want revenge, they just want recognition. In Korean tradition, when a soul dies without closure, without a proper funeral, without final words, or without dignity, it can become trapped. These spirits are called Gwishin, and they exist at the edges of daily life. Not entirely here, not entirely gone. The most recognized is the Cheonyeogwishin, the ghost of an unmarried woman. She's described in a white hanbok with long, loose hair, sometimes weeping, sometimes silent. Her presence marks unfinished expectations, often tied to the pressures placed on women. To marry, to bear children, to fulfill a role before death. When those expectations were interrupted, it was believed the soul couldn't move on. Near rivers, there's another kind of Gwishin, the Mulgwishin. These are spirits of those who drowned, especially in accidents or suicides. In Korean funeral tradition, water deaths were considered deeply unsettled. The body might not be recovered, the rites might not be completed. And in stories, these ghosts sometimes pull others into the water, not out of hatred, but because they're looking for someone to take their place. Then there's the Dalgyal Gwishin, the faceless ghost. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth, featureless presence. It doesn't speak or scream. It appears quietly, and its appearance is usually seen as a sign that death is near. People don't describe what it does, only that it was there, and then something changed. Gwishin are reminders. Something was missed. Something still needs to be answered. And until it is, they stay. Most people feared the spirits. Some spoke to them. Mudang, or shamans, are among the oldest and most complex figures in Korean tradition. Usually women, they were called. Some reported hearing voices after a long illness. Others described terrifying dreams that wouldn't stop. Many resisted the path for years, but once they accepted it, they became the bridge between this world and the next. A Mudang doesn't just pray, she performs. Her rituals include music, movement, costume, and speech. Through her, the spirit is invited to speak, whether it's an ancestor, a wandering ghost, or a guardian spirit looking for acknowledgement. But the work isn't safe. Communicating with the dead was believed to come at a cost. Some Mudang were seen as healers, guides who could help families through sickness, loss, and restless spirits. Others were feared, not because they did harm, but because they dealt with what others refused to name. It was believed that a Mudang could draw the attention of ghosts simply by speaking to them, that bad luck might follow someone who had just witnessed a ritual, or that a spirit could mistake you for the one being summoned. Even when their rituals helped, people kept their distance afterward, just in case something had followed them home. Even today, Mudang still practice across Korea, especially in rural areas and coastal cities. And while their role has shifted with modern religion and medicine, their presence hasn't disappeared. When something feels wrong in a house, when sickness won't leave a family, when a child keeps speaking to someone who isn't there, it's still common to call a shaman. That's out of caution. Because when no one else will speak to a spirit, a Mudang will. In Korean belief, death is escorted. The figure who delivers the soul is called the Jeoseung Saja, often compared to a grim reaper, but with fewer theatrics. He doesn't carry a scythe or make threats. He wears black, keeps his hat low, and appears when your time has already run out. He isn't evil. He's part of the order, but once he arrives, there's no bargaining. To help souls on their journey, shamans perform the Sitgim Gut, a soul-cleaning ritual meant to separate the dead from the world they knew. Without it, the spirit may linger, clinging to memories or people. These ceremonies involve rhythmic drumming, chants, and ritual gestures meant to settle the energy of the dead and help the living let go. The Jeoseung Saja appears in paintings, stories, and even dreams. Some say you don't see his face, only the outline. Others say he comes days before death and waits quietly, watching. If he's there, nothing can delay what's coming. But if the right rites are done, he might take the soul peacefully. And that matters, because in this mythology, the way you die shapes the way you remain. In Korean mythology, the divine isn't distant. It lives in the land itself. Before organized religion took hold, people worshipped the places that sustained them. Mountains, rivers, homes, and hearths. These weren't just natural features, they were alive, and every one of them had a spirit that could protect you, or punish you, depending on how you treated it. The most respected of these beings is Sanshin, the mountain god. You'll still find him painted on the walls of Buddhist temples today, usually shown as an old man seated beside a tiger. He doesn't belong to Buddhism, though. His worship goes back much further. Some Sanshin were believed to be ancestors who gained divine status. Others were thought to be guardian forces that had always lived in the mountain itself. Hikers still bow before entering certain trails. Monks leave fruit, incense, or rice at shrines tucked into forest paths, because disrespecting the mountain, cutting down trees without thanks, being loud, taking without offering, could bring misfortune, illness, bad weather, even getting lost in familiar terrain. The mountain was watching. Closer to home, these were the Gashin, household spirits. Unlike gods in distant heavens, these beings lived with you. The fire goddess Jeoseung lived in the kitchen hearth and was given water, rice, or salt to ensure peace and health. The door spirit, Moonshin, guarded the threshold. There were spirits for the storage jar, the well, even the outhouse. A family's relationship with these spirits was daily, personal, and deeply embedded in how people understood fortune, health, and harmony. If something began to go wrong, if food spoiled too quickly, if people fell ill for no reason, the first question was often whether a spirit had been neglected. These beings weren't feared the way demons were, but they demanded respect, and when that respect broke down, the consequences could feel just as severe. But between the gods and the ghosts, there were others. Mischief makers, trouble starters, spirits no one prayed to, but everyone remembered. Not every supernatural figure in Korean mythology is tragic or divine. Some are mischievous, ridiculous, and dangerous, all at once. The most famous of these are the dokebi, often called Korean goblins, but that word doesn't quite fit. Dokebi aren't spirits of the dead. They aren't gods either. They're something stranger. Born from old tools, forgotten objects, or natural forces, they appear in stories wearing horned hats and carrying clubs that can summon anything, or hit anyone. They're tricksters, not evil, but unpredictable. In folktales, they often challenge greedy or arrogant people, offering tests disguised as games. A dishonest merchant might be cursed to dance uncontrollably. A poor farmer who shows kindness might receive endless rice. In this way, the dokebi stories work like folklore across the world. They punish the cruel and reward the humble. But unlike Western tricksters, dokebi aren't there to teach a moral. They're just doing what they do. These creatures show up in talchum, Korea's traditional mask dances. Talchum performances were more than entertainment. They were a way to act out spiritual forces and tensions in public. Performers wore painted wooden masks that represented everything from noblemen and monks to ghosts and demons. Some dances were exorcisms, others mocked corrupt officials. Some were just meant to restore balance through laughter, shock, or ritual. In a way, the masks let people confront what couldn't be spoken aloud. Fear, grief, injustice, all given form in stories, dances, and jokes. The spirits became part of the village square, and the act of pretending, even for a moment, gave people power over what usually haunted them. Today, Korea is a modern country. Cities are dense, medicine is advanced, and organized religion is widespread. But the old beliefs haven't vanished. They've just gone quiet. You still find homes with bowls of salt near the doorway, mirrors turned inward during funerals, food left by trees after a relative dies. Some people say it's for tradition. Others say it's just in case. Shamans still perform rituals in plain sight. Mudang ceremonies happen in open fields, apartment rooftops, and city parks, and people still attend. Not always out of belief, but because when nothing else seems to work, when grief feels heavy, or misfortune won't let go, the old ways still have something to offer. Even popular culture echoes these spirits. Ghost brides, river hauntings, children with second sight. You'd think of them as horror tropes, but they come from a very real history, one that stretches back long before cinema, and will likely survive long after it. Korean mythology was never just a set of old stories. It was a living system for understanding the invisible. Loss, luck, illness, guilt, memory. And even now, that system lingers. Not always in words, sometimes in gestures, sometimes in silence. The spirits are still here, and in many ways, they never stopped watching. If this is your first journey into Korean mythology, it's only the beginning. There are still so many spirits to meet. Divine messengers, cursed objects, hungry ghosts, and gods who remember the oldest names. If you'd like us to explore them one by one, let us know in the comments. Give this video a like and subscribe for more stories from the edges of belief and the places that never fully let go. Until next time, keep your mirrors turned and your names unspoken.